This protein trick works for dropping belly fat, and I know because I've tried it, and because the science seriously backs it up. All these years that we've been trying to lose fat, but we've been dieting, or we've been exercising, or we've been counting calories, quite frankly, we have been lied to, or at least lied to by omission, because this evidence came out a while ago, and it's so strong. And it's not just that protein is satiating. Sure, we know that protein helps curb your appetite, but what if there was an actual fixed number that you had to get to, that when you hit that number, your appetite shuts off and fat-burning systems turn on? I'm not making this stuff up. In today's video, we'll cover a few things. First, we will cover the interesting study that discovered this and why maybe it didn't surface to a lot of people. Then we'll cover how to time your protein, exactly how much protein, and then we'll also talk a little bit about the mechanisms behind it so you know how it works. Then we'll talk about how to get more out of this protein trick. How can you squeak more out of it for more fat loss and less frustration? Then we'll talk about the workout wrench, what gets thrown into the mix if workouts are in the equation. Because if you don't do this right when you work out, it literally can backfire and make you actually gain fat. And I'm not exaggerating or just saying that for the YouTube algorithm. And finally, we'll cover a couple other things that you can eat where your body has systems in place to recognize that you're getting enough as well. Number one, the study that just hasn't come to surface a whole lot. Interesting, I don't know. Anyway, they found that animals would continue to eat unless they got a certain amount of protein in. When animals were not getting a lot of protein in, they found they would just overeat carbs and fats. And this kind of clicked scientists into, well, maybe we should look at this in humans. And they did. And it turns out it's a very similar thing. They found that essentially, if protein intake fell below a certain exact threshold, a certain number, appetite mechanisms would kick in and force that animal or human to eat until they reached that amount of protein. So for example, if you were just eating a bunch of rice and beans, you'd have to eat a lot of rice and beans until your brain senses we've hit this exact gram amount of protein. Why have we not been told this? Why has the focus only been on calories in, calories out? Beats me, but this seems like a pretty important thing to overlook. The American Journal of Clinical Nutrition published a study where they had humans eat isocaloric diets, same amount of calories, one group 30% protein, one group 15% protein. What they found is that the 15% group ended up eating 441 more calories. But the group that had the higher protein ended up eating less, even though they were presented with the same amount, and ultimately ended up losing about 13 pounds more fat. What we're seeing is that it's a specific target. You need to eat a certain amount of protein, which we'll talk about in a second. It's not just about satiety. Based on large human surveys, there is a narrow band of protein targets that need to be met. What that means is that across lots and lots of people, it's very, very similar how much protein needs to be met. Low protein consistently and reliably drives appetite and calories up until that protein target is met, period. So how do we time it? And how much do we actually eat? Well, we can get to that exact number, and then we'll expand on certain use cases and things you need to be wary of. So what they found is that just about invariably, it's about 0.6 to 0.7 grams per pound of body weight as the minimum target. Now, that's not your daily recommended allowance. I'm talking about the target until the hypothalamus says, we're good, we don't need to crank up appetite. So what this simply means for you as someone that's trying to eat enough protein, trying to drop fat, trying to control your appetite, is that you need to get that 0.6 grams of protein per pound of body weight as early in the day as you possibly can. If you do that, your hypothalamus, your brain, will turn off some of the appetite signaling because it says they've met the protein target and they've met it early. So you will be in more control the rest of the day. Your hypothalamus recognizes an amino acid deficit, a protein deficit, and it'll crank up appetite until it's met. Your liver will detect a protein deficit and will pump out something called FGF21, which is going to increase your appetite for protein even more. But you're thinking, I want an appetite for protein. It means I'll eat a burger or I'll eat chicken instead of Doritos. Well, that's the problem. Most modern people, like over 90% of them realistically, are not going to be sensitive to the satiety signals or the hunger signals in terms of the specifics of it. You're going to be told by your liver and your brain that you need to eat more protein, but your metabolism is going to interpret that as, I just need more food. I can't necessarily ascertain what it's telling you to eat more of. So you go and you eat more and you eat more and you're out of control and you eat more and you gain fat because you're trying to meet this protein goal that is a number you didn't know existed before. How do we get more out of this? How can we squeak a little bit more with our protein to get more fat loss or realistically less potential gain? Well, first, get that big surge in the morning. That's going to be critical. And healthy fats first thing in the morning, because the fats are going to continue to help with that satiety via GLP-1 mechanism. With lunch, you want to have a more rapid absorbing protein so that you hit that protein target really fast at lunch so you don't overeat at lunch, particularly if you're working a desk job or you're sedentary a lot. This will help you out tremendously. You want to have your carb allocation be toward dinner. If you can plan ahead with this, it'll allow you to hit those protein targets high so your appetite won't be high at dinner. It simply won't. So if you already allocated your carbs to the evening time, you likely won't overdo it. You'll be able to stick to your plan and not spike your glucose very, very high, and you'll be able to maintain that level of insulin sensitivity that you're after. Another hot tip is apple cider vinegar, because apple cider vinegar converts into acetate in the body. Acetate actually gets into the mitochondria for fuel. So acetate will curb your appetite and it will override some of this mechanism because acetate can actually fuel the mitochondria in the brain. Another quick trick is sodium, using like a salty electrolyte. I use LMNT electrolytes. I've linked out to them down below because salt can help override some of the neurons in the brain and also supersede a little bit of this thing so that you get an appetite suppressive effect because your body also works with sodium in a similar way it does with protein. If you're not getting enough sodium, it will ramp up appetite until you do. So those LMNT electrolytes work really well for that with 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 potassium, and 60 magnesium. The link down below gets you a free variety pack with any purchase with them. So this is a great way to curb your appetite, but also have something that tastes really good. So I drink them all the time. I sip on it pretty much every day, especially if I'm low carb or fasting. I sip on it all day and it keeps my appetite at bay tremendously, especially they're ready to drink ones. The cans, the sparkling, those are super good. So if you want that free variety pack, the link down below, drinklmnt.com/Thomas. Now there's a serious wrench that gets thrown in things. Okay, this is extremely important and hopefully you're still on this video because this is very critical, extremely critical. Most people that are watching these videos are probably starting an exercise routine. Okay, exercise changes this. Not too much to the point where you need to be like, oh my gosh, Thomas is changing this on me, but more so, you need to know this. There was a study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition that found that workouts, particularly higher intensity cardio workouts, temporarily increase the protein target. So they make it so the protein target is temporarily shot up. What does that mean? It means after a workout, for a couple hours after your workout, the hypothalamus says, I need more protein as my target. So you're gonna be hungry and hungry and hungry until you hit that temporary increase in your protein target. That is seriously dangerous because a lot of people will do cardio to lose fat. But what happens? They end up overeating because their appetite is out of control and they don't even realize it. They're doing more and more and more exercise and cardio and HIIT, and next thing you know, they have more belly fat. Have you seen that happen before? It happens all the dang time. And that's because this protein leverage hypothesis shows that the target changes after a workout. So what do you need to do? Within a couple hours of your workout, you need to get that protein intake higher, okay? We need to get probably another 30 to 50 grams on top of where we should be after that workout, because that is going to turn off that additional appetite that comes from a workout. A hot tip though, is you can use essential amino acids to override this a little bit because it seems to be largely leucine driven, which is an amino acid. So if we can take EAAs, we can actually override this during the workout portion. Not so much the standard integrated portion of our life. Like one could say, well, if I have EAAs in the morning, will this turn off the protein leverage system in my brain? Well, we don't have evidence to suggest that, but we do with the workouts. So post-workout, you could have EAAs, essential amino acids, and it could help bring that target down again. But what other foods operate in this same way? I got really frustrated when I learned all of this because I feel like in many ways we have been sort of lied to, maybe not directly, but almost lying by omission, because there's this like general calories in, calories out theme that just takes over. And it's not wrong. Calories in, calories out is fine, but these things matter. Really, really, really matter. Probably even more so. And what it is that our body is going to remain hungry until certain needs are met. Period. Point blank. End of story. And we've seen this evidence with calcium too. So calcium works along the same way as protein does, except calcium is there because we need it for bones and metabolic health and electrical signaling. If you're not getting enough calcium, your body will remain hungry until you get enough calcium. So what do we do here? Well, there's a nice trick. Dairy, whey protein, cottage cheese, yogurt, good quality milk protein, sardines with the bone, mackerel with the bone, high amounts of calcium and protein gets you that double whammy. You target the protein leverage target that you need with protein and with calcium in a double whammy, you get a tremendous appetite suppressing effect. This is extremely important and definitely a huge hack. If you wanted to even make eggs and break up some of the shell, sounds crazy, but it works, to get that calcium in the morning, you'll double whammy on that target. Also consider a multivitamin early in the day. A lot of people take a multivitamin late in the day. What if, we don't have the evidence yet, but what if our body was just going to eat until all nutrient needs are met? What if you got a good quality multivitamin or ate some liver in the morning that got you an abundance of vitamins? Would it control your appetite and you'd be less victim to munching on other foods? That's pretty wild. So to recap here, we definitely have been missing the boat here. Protein leverage is important. Good quality protein at 0.6 grams per pound early in the morning, okay? As early in the morning as you can, maybe after your workout. If you do work out, you definitely need to increase that protein by about 30 to 50 grams within the couple hours after your workout. Apple cider vinegar as a nice hack to curb appetite. Salt as a trick to curb appetite. High quality, fast absorbing protein around lunchtime. Carb allocation in the evening time so that you don't overeat carbs early before your protein target is met. Calcium is key, and a multivitamin trick to curb your appetite. Now, I did another video talking about walking 10,000 steps, another easy way to really burn fat, and something that people don't talk about enough in terms of the mechanisms. So I put that video right here. Recommend you check that out so you learn some tips to get more out of your walking for fat loss. I'll see you tomorrow.